Hello and welcome. Well, winter is a wonderful time to rest, recharge, and rejuvenate with comfort food that can keep us warm and snug. And Mother Earth has an incredible ability to supply us with seasonal produce that contains the very nutrients our bodies need to consume for optimum health for that particular time of year. So, for as long as humanity has been in existence, we have been resourceful with what food options that we have available and are in season. But I guess recently, of course, in recent years, due to technological advances, we've had the luxury of eating summer fruits all year round. This, however, I guess can come with some disadvantages, including making our digestive system having to work overtime. So today, to help understand the benefits of eating seasonally, we welcome back Siobhan Boyle, CEO of Jamie Oliver's Ministry of Food, who Kittypedia is honoured to be in partnership with. And Siobhan is going to share great tips for how we can make the most out of our winter produce. Thank you for joining us today and welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm really good, Rachel. How are you? Lovely to be back on this beautiful sunny winter's day from Sydney.
Yes, and we were just saying offline how sort of dreary. We've got concrete sky down here in Melbourne at the moment, as I call it, when we've got that grey sky, concrete sky. So enjoy the sunshine. You can see it's beautiful just coming through your window there, so you can enjoy that for us. And talking about sort of winter and summer and all that sort of stuff, I guess we all know and love our summer fruits and veggies and mangoes, pineapples, blueberries, but there I guess are considerable disadvantages to eating foods out of season and in produce. So in your view, I'd love to know initially, why do you think eating seasonally is so important for us?
Well, not only is eating seasonally exciting because you get a variety through the year of different flavours, and foods taste better when they're in season. So if you eat berries during summer, they're going to taste more delicious than eating berries that have been sort of grown in a greenhouse and haven't had the benefit of that sunshine and all the nutrients you get through the different seasons. It also means you can eat a variety through the year. And not only that, from an economic perspective, it means that the foods are going to be much more reasonably priced as well. So if you're eating foods in season and they're not going to just taste better, but they're also going to be better on your wallet. So it's a win-win all round. And it means that your repertoire can increase too. So the things that you're cooking vary throughout the year to reflect what's happening with the temperature outside. It feels a little ironic having this conversation when I've got the sun beaming in to my apartment today, talking about winter ingredients. But there are so many beautiful winter ingredients out there, and I think people sort of get stuck in a little bit of a rut. We're thinking just about comfort eating and things to sort of fill them up, and you go into that sort of hunkering down mode, don't you, when you are in winter? And which is fantastic, and there are wonderful dishes that you can cook, but also there are the citrus, which is one of those flavors that comes into season and is in abundance right now. So you can have, those hits of freshness throughout those beautiful dishes that you're making, and those slow cooked dishes. So finishing dishes off to give them that vibrancy and that flavor that you might not necessarily associate with winter cooking. So it's really exciting. It's a great time to try different ingredients, a great time to try those beautiful different vegetables. The controversial vegetables like Brussels sprouts and cauliflower, which people seem to love or hate.
Yes.
And in Australia, beetroots are, classically Australian, I feel. You can't go get a burger without a beetroot in Australia.
Pineapple with it too. Pineapple and
yeah, exactly.
But I guess, so you keep going, yeah.
and then sort of I would say the more humble fruits available, like your apples and your pears, which are lunchbox staples and appearing on cheese boards, but also great for if you're wanting to make a fruit-based dessert, like a beautiful apple crumble or a pear, lime and ginger crumble, something which can be a bit comforting. But we know that treats and making desserts are all part of your diet, but it's all everything in moderation. But if you're making something with seasonal fruits, it's always going to be a little bit better for you than something chocolatey and cream based. So we're
Yes.
not anti-treats as a foundation, and definitely not. But we know that it is all about moderation and making the best of what you can and knowing when to sort of rein things in as well.
Yeah, and so I guess eating winter produce adds protection from colds and flus, and many types of winter produce are a great source of vitamin C. Things like leafy vegetables are also a good source of vitamin K. So all of these things we actually need more so at this time of year. And as you just said, seasonal fruits are fresher and tastier and more nutritious than foods that are consumed out of season. But I've also read that eating seasonally can help reduce our carbon footprint. And this is what you were saying a little bit before also, that being that we sort of can lower greenhouse emissions from the transport of our food, of course, if we're sort of eating seasonally and more locally. So it's beneficial not just from an economic perspective, but can sort of help to protect local land and wildlife and mass scale agriculture overall. So there's so many benefits. I'd love to know your thoughts. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sort of as well now, especially in this period of time that we're in, where we've all had a bit of pause on our standard life, and we are sort of slowing down the pace of life, and we are wanting to know where our food is coming from, and we're wanting to support local because we are seeing the effects that COVID-19 has had on communities across Australia, and wanting to support your local farmers and your local growers. And if you in lockdown and you are lucky enough to have your gorgeous farmers markets or in your local greengrocers, getting in there, getting to know them, finding out what's good, what's local, and what's in season, and having and maybe sort of trying different recipes out
Great
as well.
idea.
And so if you normally use spinach, why don't you try some kale or some silver beet instead? Just to mix it up a bit to see whether those different flavor profiles work for you and your family. So it is a time that there are beautiful ingredients that really do sort of complement their brothers and sisters, and you can kind of have a bit of a play and see where that journey takes you.
And eating seasonally can also help reduce exposure to preservatives, I guess, because we're eating more fresher right produce. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say that's probably a little bit of a bold statement in terms of the preservative side of things, because
Yeah.
especially in the organic world in Australia, it's not as clear as it would be in the UK. The rules around organic food are not as hard and fast here. So in terms of the preservatives and ingredients that are put onto your fresh fruit and vegetables, when they're growing, they can be, you cannot guarantee, what things have been grown in unless you know directly where they've been grown from. But in terms of, if you're buying things in packages and, they're canned or they've been frozen or they've had to have things do them to prolong their shelf life, then yes, if you are buying sort of something freeze dried, that there's been a process to get it there. And if it's, in a jar or a can, they're all likewise, things will have had to be added to it to enable that shelf life of the product to last for longer. But in terms of, buying seasonally, in terms of the preservatives, I would say that's a little bit of a tricky one because we don't know quite how they've been grown, and you could get, your potatoes fresh out of the ground, but the farmer may have put something onto the land anyway. So probably sort of in a sense of, we say fresh is best if you can. And, like with buying any ingredients, whether it's fruit and vegetables, whether it's meat, whether it's fish, if you know your suppliers, you know where things come from, you can start those conversations and you can give yourself a bit more knowledge about what you're eating for yourself and for your family.
Great advice. And Siobhan, is it true that produce that goes, I guess, that is sort of picked and undergoes an early picking, cooling, and heating sort of system as well when we eat things out of season? And does that sort of system also reduce the flavour of the fruit and vegetables that are picked out of season? as well.
You do tend to get a different flavor. I don't know whether you've noticed with tomatoes, when you eat tomatoes during winter, they are flavorless. And when they're coming into season, there's nothing quite like the smell of fresh
A
ripe
fresh,
tomatoes.
there is a different
And
smell to it. Like when you buy it off the vine, and I sometimes will just stand at the fruit shop or in the supermarket and just have that smell of the tomato off the vine. Is that what you're talking about? Just that.
yeah, and it's something when we're teaching our kids program, we will often try and get tomato plants, into the classrooms, and
Yeah.
we'll get the children rubbing the leaves so that they get to smell what a tomato should smell like. And if it smells like that, then you know it's going to taste delicious. And it's the same with when stone fruit are in season in summer. That takes me back to the markets in Europe, and the smells of those peaches and nectarines, which are so fantastic. And right now you've got all the citrus fruit which is in season, and it's abundant, and everywhere you go you've got pockets of yellow and green and orange with piles of mandarins.
Oh,
And so
yes.
and those smells are fabulous. There's nothing quite. I love the freshness of citrus and that zing that it adds to dishes. And so that is where we want to be going right now with our flavors and our fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, I've got a very distinct memory. My background is Italian, but we never spoke it at home, so I'm not fluent in Italian by any means. But I was in Italy with my grandmother many years ago, and standing over her beautiful big bush of basil, and the only thing that we could actually sort of communicate over was just the smell of the basil. We were picking the leaves and smelling, and we're just saying to one another, "Isn't this beautiful? Beautiful!" It was just an incredible memory, and I don't know why that just popped up, but it is. It's a beautiful thing to be able to share those moments with your family, with fresh food and produce. It definitely sort of anchors down to some beautiful emotional sort of memories and that sort of stuff. I think with all families and children sitting around family, dinner tables, all that sort of stuff. But I guess what we're trying to say overall, I guess that fruit and vegetables that are in season spend less time from farm to table, and I guess they do maintain much of that nutrition and flavour. So is that what you're sort of saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why seasonality is really exciting. And
Yeah.
some of the simplest dishes you can make can actually be the best dishes. And
Yes. Yep.
things don't need to be overly complex to make something super delicious. And I love making soups during winter. I don't know about you. You've got nothing like a carrot and coconut and ginger soup, or a beautiful roasted cauliflower soup. You've got all these different gorgeous flavors, or a nice warm vegetable salad. You don't have to rule salad out either in
Yeah.
winter. I mean, the possibilities really are endless. And you've got all of those classic flavor punches from chili and ginger and garlic, which are also great for immune boosting, as we've discussed before. And they can add sort of that warm nature of these dishes. And I use a lot of the woody herbs during winter. So I use a lot of rosemary, I use a lot of thyme, I use a lot of bay, because they really complement slow cooking dishes, like a slow cooked beef stew, or a beautiful curry, taking those flavors or making a lovely ragu, for those of you with a beautiful Italian heritage, it just really, those herbs survive the cooking process. And so they just add that sort of gentle warmth to your dishes. So yeah, it's really lovely I love the fact that you can vary up those flavor profiles through the year, and it kind of just transports you to where you want to be right
I love
now.
that. Well, overall, what are your top winter ingredients then?
Oh gosh, now that's a good question. I can't go without citrus. I may seem slightly obsessed, but I always have an abundance of lemons and limes in my kitchen, because they're in season right now, but also I know that I add that hint of freshness. So whether I'm sort of finishing off with a bit of zest, squeezing over a bit of lemon juice or lime juice into a dish, I just know it's going to kind of sort of lift that
It
dish up.
does.
So yeah. cannot go without. I'm a massive fan of the slightly controversial vegetables. So I love cauliflower. I love it roasted. I love it in soups. I love it pureed. I made a beautiful cauliflower puree at the weekend, which was very
wow.
delicious. Brussels sprouts, which again were a childhood. I hated them. I don't know about you during childhood, because they were always steamed and overcooked. But now roasted or pan fried, so they go deliciously golden and crispy. Oh my goodness! Like any Brussels sprout hater will then love Brussels sprouts.
It's just
And then,
of course, that makes the difference.
oh gosh, absolutely. But that's like with anything. You can
Yeah.
have the best ingredients in the world, but if you don't know what to do with them, then you can make them the least delicious ingredients
Yeah.
in the world. And that is something that, we really are very passionate about, is teaching people how to use ingredients. It's all very well knowing what's really good for you and knowing what's in season, and knowing why we should eat it. But you've got to know how to use those ingredients. Otherwise, you're going to really struggle. So part of the process of our cooking journey, whether it's the littlies through our Learn Your Fruit and Veg program, or the grown-ups through our Ministry of Food program, we teach them what to do with those ingredients, and how to prepare them, and how to get the best out of them, so they'll always get the maximum flavor. And also sort of knowing sort of what other flavors will complement them too. So if certain herbs will work really well, or certain spices will work really well with them, and that's really important too. So that's all part of the cooking journey we take people on, with our wonderful cooking programs.
Yeah, I've made a list also of all the different types of I guess produce that is in season at the moment, and I guess the following family of vegetables, from what I can see, what I've been sort of learning through my research, is as a great source of vitamin C, and all the good stuff. So I'll just quickly run through them, and I'd love to know what your thoughts are. So now I found out the Asian greens, bok choy and choy sum, are actually in season in winter, which I found interesting. I would have thought that would have been summer, but you've mentioned broccoli, cabbage, kale, cauliflower, turnips, Swedes, and Brussels sprouts, which you've just mentioned. So any of those are your favourites? Where you've mentioned your Brussels sprouts and cauliflower are your two favourites from that list, would you say?
Yeah, no, I do love those. But do you know what I also do love? I am English, and I do love a good root vegetable. So like love parsnips and potatoes and sweet potatoes. Oh my goodness, so delicious. So and you can't go wrong with those during winter. Can you?
Yes.
Like having, sort of, whether that's in a mash or, a beautiful baked potato. And parsnip actually makes really delicious soup as well.
It's got that nutty flavour to it. I love
Oh,
parsnip.
Oh,
Yes.
it's so good. And do you know what? Parsnip and pear go really well together. And so just as a flavour profile, I've got a parsnip and pear soup that I used to do, which sounds a bit weird, but it's actually really yummy. It's just because they've both they've got a slightly sweet flavour too.
Is that a cold soup or is that a warm soup?
It's a warm soup.
Mmm. Well, and then I've got a list now of dark leafy greens, and I read that they're a great source of vitamin K, which is also a rich source of folate, and for children in particular, essential for brain development and heart health. So those being kale, spinach, silver beet, and parsley as well. Now, parsley generally you can sort of get all year round as well, but do you add parsley into a lot of your meals at all?
Oh gosh, yeah. No, I love parsley. It depends on whether you're going for the more refined, the continental parsley, or its less refined cousin with the curly leaf parsley. Both are great flavor adders. They lovely to finish off a dish with. I mean, also I'll make I like to make pestos and salsa as well, with parsley. So that's always nice, just as a little sort of added extra flavor to add in. So you can sort of, if you're whizzing up parsley with some parmesan and some nuts, whether that's pine nuts or some almonds, and a bit of garlic and olive oil and lemon juice, great for sort of stirring through pasta,
Oh,
adding,
yum.
spooning over fish, or serving with some meat, or just simply dressing some vegetables. And likewise, I use a lot of parsley and salsa verdes, and that's sort of making a sort of beautiful sort of green herb sauce with vinegar and capers and garlic and olive oil. So, you know, again, great for meat and fish and vegetables. So always they're two really handy little recipes to have, just that can kind of lift your dishes,
Yeah.
you know, and that hint of freshness as well, because, you know, I think that sort of perception of winter food can be that it's quite heavy and it's quite brown and dark, but, you know, adding those little bursts of colors with your greens and your herbs and your little salsas on the side makes things, you know,
All the
gives them
difference.
a bit of a pop at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've got others on the list include fennel mushrooms. You've mentioned parsnips. We've got potatoes and sweet potatoes, squash and beetroot. And then with our fruits, of course, we've got all of our citrus, which you've just mentioned, the oranges, pears, mandarins, kiwi, grapefruit. So all of these things, as I was saying at the start of the chat, really like Mother Earth and nature really put these things available for us in season to be able to help sort of like fight coughs and colds and with high vitamin C and all that sort of stuff. But I'd love to know from your perspective, how can we make the most out of our winter produce? What are your thoughts?
I think in terms of making the most of the winter produce, it's, you know, as buying the produce when it is in season, not being afraid of trying new ingredients, and learning how to cook and prepare those ingredients. So, you know, it's as I said earlier, it's really, if you don't know what to do with it, you might not make the best of it, but, you know, sort of thinking outside the box sometimes, and, you know, trying different things. But you know, eating seasonally, so important, because packed full of nutrition. You know, getting a variety of recipes in there and getting a variety of flavors in there, you know, super important, to keep your diet interesting as well, because if you're eating the same things all the time, it can be a bit boring, can't it? So, you know, variety is often the key. And, you know, sometimes just switching a sweet potato for a normal potato might
Yeah.
not seem that dramatic, but actually, you know, it's a totally different profile. It takes you off in a totally different direction, but you can do such similar things with it. And so, you know, it is those little changes and bringing those ingredients in, you know, so that you know, yours and your family's diet are kept varied, exciting, colourful. And something we always say when we're teaching, whether it's little E's or biggies, about nutrition and healthy eating, is to eat the rainbow. And so during winter, it can be a little bit more complex to eat the rainbow because of the colours. The list that you just gave, I mean, they're not as bright and vibrant as the colours of, say, your summer fruits and vegetables, but it is still possible to get the rainbow in there. And, you know, when you are eating the rainbow, the different colours of ingredients contain different nutrients. And so if you're eating only green vegetables, you'd be limiting yourself from the benefits of the more colourful vegetables. So you can still get some colour in there during winter. You've still got your carrots, you've still got your sweet potatoes, and then you've got all of that lovely citrus, and the beetroot. Who can forget beetroot? So you can get your rainbow, but it's important not to forget to do that. And so when you are looking and buying and shopping and looking at what's going onto your plate and what you're eating across the week, really important to get that variety in, and not only from a flavour profile perspective, but from a nutrition perspective too, and to
Yes.
ensure you are getting that that portfolio of nutrients into your body.
Great advice. And I guess now that so many of us are staying home to stay safe, and depending what state and territory that you're in different levels of lockdown, but I would love to know, do you still see this time of year being a great time to get kids in the kitchen, to learn and to be involved with cooking? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think now, I think this year more than ever has shown the importance of bringing people together with food. People are focusing more on what they're eating. And we know from running our kids program that it's the process of getting the children involved in the cooking process
Mm-hmm.
that actually encourages them to try new and different things. You get a lot of resistance sometimes when you present new ingredients to children, and then once you involve them in that process, you get them chopping, you get them tasting as part of the cooking process, and then they actually want to try it. And even if they don't like it, that's okay, but it is, getting them involved as part of the process. Also, it's going to help you long run. You can instill those really positive habits at a young age. It's going to help. It's
Great
going to make them,
advice.
going to get them eating more things, be willing to try more things, get them in the kitchen, and then it becomes normal. It shouldn't be this thing that suddenly people have to learn when they're adults. If it becomes as normal as learning to read and write, hopefully one day soon we can reverse the trend in diet-related disease in Australia. So we would love for every single child, every single adult, everybody in Australia to have those back to basics cooking skills so that they can make those better choices for themselves, for their families, and for future generations. So for us, getting kids in the kitchen is so, so important. And, now people have got their kids at home, people have got that time to do that, and you've got this wonderful variety of ingredients to have a go with. I go and see now is the best time to be doing this.
I totally agree with you and agree with everything that you just said and support it. And I'd love to be able to understand then, I mean, there's so many recipes out there, and I know that your resource has got some listed on the net as well for families to be able to find. But how would you maybe just boil down to your personal 3 favorite winter recipes? What would they be that kids would love also, that you think that
Oh no,
maybe that they can be cooking at home?
So, in terms of kid-friendly recipes, I would suggest doing I'd love to do a slow cooked beef recipe to go through pasta. So in terms of having a bit of a beef ragu. So it's a bit of a sort of an extension on your classic bolognese. So you can get some beautiful flavors going on in there, and you can sneak your veggies in too. And so that's a great one sort of for feeding a family. And you can take that in multiple directions. So you can make it to go with pasta. You can turn it into a shepherd's pie. You can turn it. You can put it through on jacket potatoes. You can add a bit of spice to it. So it's kind of having a really good base recipe that maybe your older kids might want to help you with, which I always think is a total winner. In terms of other recipes, I can't go past a good crumble, a good winter crumble as well. That's great for getting the kids involved with, because rubbing your flour and your sugar and your butter together, really great. You can get them hands on, hands in. You can get them helping you peel apples or pears, and you get them weighing and measuring. So that's a great one, and also a great way of kind of using up those beautiful fruits that are in season, and it becomes a great family treaty dessert. So that I would say, sort of having something slow cooked, a beautiful crumble, and then in terms of another winter dish, I do love a soup. Now, soup can be sort of a little bit sort of tricky with some children, but it is a great way of getting kids, to eat their vegetables. And also because, if you do something like sort of the pea and ham soup, you've got, what is it, Dr. Seuss, who was made
Yes, of
pea and
course.
ham soup
Yeah.
very famous. So you're taking the kids off, on a bit of a sort of culinary narrative with a famous character who made that soup very famous. And actually, obviously, peas aren't in season, but frozen peas, which I am a massive fan of having a freezer stocked full of really good frozen veggies as well. A great thing to have. So if you want sort of an instant soup, doing something like that is a brilliant recipe to have. And if you can sort of tie it into the kids' favorite sort of fairy tales or kids' books, that's a great way of encouraging them to sort of try and taste different fruits and vegetables too.
Great advice. Great advice. And I think maybe overall eating and having children eat by season also opens up, I mean, in the kitchen to exploring countless different recipe options and cooking new and different things and in exploring different things to do, as you just said, maybe exchanging a sweet potato for a normal potato, but overall maybe just expanding the children's palate and getting them used to eating different things. And I guess all in all, really getting children excited about food and the many options that are available to them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think, you've got to, I think everyone's got different taste preferences. not everyone's going to like everything, but getting kids excited, get them experience, get them exposed to those different ingredients. It's only a positive thing.
Yes.
It really, really is. It's not just from a nutrition perspective. It's not, we know that, if you're getting kids eating the right ingredients, they're having a really good balanced diet from a young age, that they're going to be, their concentration is going to be better at school, which, especially if you're homeschooling, you're going to want that. and then, in terms of their having positive mental health outcomes, over the age of 14, if you're really instilling those positive eating habits from a young age, it's only going to improve their sort of journey into adulthood. So couldn't agree with you more. It's so important getting kids involved, exposed, and trying those different ingredients, and
expanding their palate.
It might not happen straight away, but it is, trying it in different ways. They might not like a carrot raw, but they might find a carrot dip really delicious. If you've roasted your carrots and then blended them up with some chickpeas and some lemon juice, olive oil and garlic, they might think, wow, that's really amazing. But you've got to try these different things, and adding a bit of spice in, potentially if they're open to spice, to see, there is more than one way to serve a vegetable. So it is, working out.
I think we said this in one of our other chats too, that if, for example, you give them a carrot, like you're just saying, and they don't like a carrot raw, don't rule that out completely. They're never going to eat carrots. It's about, as you're just saying, expanding and trying it in different ways so they do still get the nutrients from that particular vegetable. Is that what you're saying? It's about sort of expanding the options to be able to ensure that they actually do eat all fruits and vegetables. Well, not all, but as many as possible. Yeah,
totally. And I know sort of a lot of parents do hide things into your bologneses and your sauces, and I've got a girlfriend of mine who makes a very delicious, it's delicious for adults too. She calls it her special vegetable cheese pasta, which basically blending up some cauliflower and corn through a sort of bechamel sauce. But it is sort of another great way of kind of sneaking in those vegetables if your children are a little bit fussy, which is very normal, and you can instill the best possible habits there are, but then children will still be fussy, and every child is different. But there are more than one way to serve a vegetable, and I think sort of trying out different varieties, and then sort of bringing it back as well, and not making a big deal out of it, because I think that's also something that puts people off. If you're told you have to like something, often you'll do completely the opposite. And we're the same as adults, aren't we?
Yes. Yeah.
We're definitely the same as adults. We're definitely like, oh no, I don't. that doesn't work well with me. So,
you want me to go this way? I'm going to go this way.
Exactly right.
And I'd love to ask you also, how can we steer away from meals high in carbohydrates and comfort food per se? Easier said than done in winter, but just in general, trying to ensure that we are sort of getting, I guess, as many fruit and vegetables. But I mean, do you have any advice how we can try and steer away from the carbohydrates a little bit?
Well, I mean, carbohydrates get a lot of bad press, and we certainly wouldn't advise against steering away, but it's all about that balance. So when you're looking at meal planning, and when you're looking at what's on your plate, you want to make sure that, you've got basically half a plate of vegetables. So if you're looking at it, it should be, but carbohydrates are an important element of that. So whether that's in the form of your starchy grains, whether that's a potato, it's really important to have that element there. And a lot of people kind of are very anti-carbohydrates, but it is important to have that balance. So, there's nothing wrong with having a delicious pasta dish, but potentially, as long as you're balancing that up with a salad, and likewise having beautiful baked potatoes. Who doesn't love a baked potato in winter? Actually, a baked potato at any time is pretty delicious, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, but then it's also making sure that is balanced on your plate with a good side of vegetables or salad too. So it's, there's, we are very aware that there are sometimes foods, and winter vegetable gratins as well, are totally delicious, but they're not your everyday food. So it's all about that balance. It's all about everything in moderation, and kind of knowing when to kind of eat a little bit more of one thing, a little bit less of the other. Yeah, we definitely wouldn't advise ruling anything out. Those poor old carbohydrates, they do get a lot of bad press.
Yes, absolutely. It's about balance, definitely.
Yes.
And I guess not everyone is a great cook, and that's okay, because there's tons of inspiration out there, and starting, of course, with Jamie's cookbooks and TV series, which we all know and love. And in addition to this, I believe that the Good Foundation and Jamie's Ministry of Food offer an online program with cooking lessons now, and that they can teach, and anyone at home in isolation how to cook delicious and nutritious meals using Jamie Oliver's recipes. So can you tell us a little bit about this and how, I guess, families can access the online program?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we are now delivering is our wonderful programs, both Jamie Oliver's Learn Your Fruit and Veg and Jamie's Ministry of Food, through Zoom functionality. So people can go to our website, thegoodfoundation.com.au, and they can have a look at what classes are available, and then they can sign up to one of our wonderful programs. So for the kids program, we are running them sort of in the school holidays at the moment. And so that they're running sort of for 4 days in a row. Every day the class lasts for half an hour, and the kids will learn about a different seasonal fruit or vegetable, and they'll get to make a non-heat recipe together. And then with our adult program, we have a number of classes online available, and they run for 60 minutes and over a period of 5 weeks. So you would sign up, say, at 10:30 on a Monday, and you would do the same time slot every week for 5 weeks. And part of that, we take you on a journey. So it is a back to basics cooking program. Ahead of the class, we've sent out your list of ingredients, a list of equipment, what you need, so you get yourself set up. And we have qualified trainers who will then take you through those recipes for the day, and you'll get to cook along with everyone else. We've actually done a class for 100 people recently, which is amazing. So for us, that's really exciting, because we've now got the ability to scale. So to transform more people's eating habits, which is fantastic. And by the end of the 5-week program, you will have a new repertoire of wonderful recipes. We'll teach you knife skills, kitchen skills. You'll learn about different seasonal ingredients, how to shop smarter, and hopefully you'll have enough basic skills to empower you to make those better choices for your family too. So it's a start of a cooking journey. It's not a chef's program. They are all wonderful Jamie Oliver recipes. So of course they're going to be super, super delicious, but they're also very budget friendly too, because that's very important as well during these times. And people come along, they have a great fun, and we're creating these amazing virtual communities. So which is so important when people are going through social isolation, people are in lockdown, and by bringing people together with the power of food and cooking classes, it's a really wonderful thing.
Oh, Siobhan, that sounds fantastic. And we'll ensure that we have the link through to all of that in the show notes, along with the article that we've published for you, Making the Most of Winter Produce. As always, I've loved this chat, and we've covered a lot. So if you were to, I guess, summarize your key messages for anyone watching or listening, what would they be?
Well, I would say make the most of winter produce. Why should we make the most of winter produce? Because seasonality is exciting. We want to encourage you to eat the rainbow. We want you to get the best flavour out of those ingredients, get the most nutrients out of those ingredients, and expand your repertoire. Remember, some of the simplest dishes can be really exciting. So you don't need to be cooking anything overly complex. As we just discussed, how delicious a simple baked potato can be, and those gorgeous, gorgeous soups that you make. And I mustn't forget that beautiful crumble. And just remember that it's okay to have treats. There are sometimes foods, but make sure you are eating a balance in your diet. And most importantly of all, get yourself and your family into the kitchen. We want to empower you to make those better choices. We want to improve your cooking skills, and we want as an organisation to help transform the eating habits of communities across Australia.
Just brilliant. Thank you so much for your time again today. And if anyone would like to get involved with the foundation, what do they need to do and whereabouts can they find you?
So if anyone would love, we always want to hear from people. So if anyone would like to speak to us about employment opportunities, volunteering opportunities, partnering with us as a foundation, because we're always looking for people to partner with, and whether that's from a collaboration perspective, sponsorship perspective, or other, please go to our website at thegoodfoundation.com.au. We would love to hear from you. Also, if you would like to sign up for one of our wonderful classes, that is where you can get all of the information about our wonderful classes. Now, we are in the process of having a new website built, which is very exciting.
Very exciting.
So yes, so in the next couple of weeks, hopefully we will be able to, people will get to experience this new, very user-friendly website. So, hopefully if anyone is watching this, by the time this goes out, we should have our new website live, and people will get that sort of really positive customer journey. So looking forward to sort of hearing from you all, and hopefully seeing you all on one of our wonderful courses soon.
I can't wait to see the website and can't wait for our next chat, which is not too far in the future. I know I've got it in my calendar, so I can't wait. Well, take care and let's speak again soon. Stay safe.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Rachel. You too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.